All right, so in this video, we are going to do a review of chapter 1.2, which is basically exploring the absolute value. Now, this is going to be a pretty short and easy lesson, but still important nonetheless. Absolute value just means to turn the value positive. So let's just take a look at some examples and understand this from some examples. So the first example gives us a question where we have a couple of absolute values. And absolute is just like these two straight lines. These are now ones. This is absolute of -5. This is absolute of +20. And we need to rearrange these values from smallest to greatest. So let's just understand what absolute here. The absolute of -5 is just 5. The absolute of 20 is just 20. Absolute of -15 is just 15. Absolute of 12 is 12. And the absolute of 25 is just -25 is just 25. So if I'm rearranging these from smallest to largest, this is my smallest one here. So absolute of -5 comes first. So -5. The next smallest is this one here, which is the absolute of 12. The next smallest is this one, which is the absolute of -15. Next smallest is this one, which is the absolute of 20. And then last one over there, which is the largest, is basically the absolute of -25. The next question is just simplifying. So these are easy, but kind of important. So the first one is the absolute of -22. The absolute of -22, we know is just 22. That should be pretty simple. I explained that in the first question. Next question, we have negative of the absolute of -35. So we start with the absolute first, just like brackets. I'm going to rewrite the negative out here the same. And the absolute of -35 is just 35, +35. So now negative times +35 is just -35. Next question is the absolute of -5 minus 13. So just like brackets, we want to simplify the inside first if possible. So that's just the absolute of -18, which is +18. Next one, we have the absolute of 4 minus 7 plus absolute of -10 plus 2. So again, I'll do the insides first. 4 minus 7 is -3. -10 plus 2 is -8. And then the absolute of -3 is 3. The absolute of -8 is +8. And 3 plus 8 is just 11. Next one, I have absolute of -8 divided by -4. That's just absolute of -8 is +8. So 8 over -4, which is just -2. And last one, we have absolute of -22 over absolute -11 plus -16 over absolute of -4. So again, this one should be pretty easy. It's just 22 over 11 plus -16 over +4, which is 2 plus -4, which is just -2. So that's pretty simple. That's just understanding the basics of absolutes. Now we're going to go into uh, inequalities and number lines next. Okay, so let's start with inequalities. The first thing we're going to do is they're going to give us two inequalities. So x less than -3 or x greater than +3. And we want to write this in terms of absolute value notation. So I'm going to show you an easy way to just convert anything to absolute value notation from multiple notations, okay? And I want you to keep in mind there are always two correct answers here, but you only need one, you don't need both. So in order to do this, you just pick one of them. It doesn't matter which one. And then you just rewrite the equation. So if I'm picking this one, I'm just rewriting the equation like this. And this covers both of these basically when you break it down, because the absolute of x, if it's greater than 3, it means that if I get rid of the absolute, it's going to turn this into a plus or minus, and we're going to flip the signs for the negative one. So we're going to get two different ones like this. So just pick any one of them. Your answer could have also been, another optional answer could have also been like this, where you could write absolute x less than -3. Both these answers are 100% correct. They mean the exact same thing. But I'm only going to do one answer for all of them, not two, because you don't need two answers. Next one, we have -8 less than equal to x less than equal to +8. So this is like x is between -8 and +8. So again, you can pick any one and do any one. You can either hide this over here and just rewrite this with the absolute sign. So absolute 8 less than equal to 8. You could have also hidden this and rewrote the same thing with the absolute sign. You would have got the same answer. Third one is x is less than equal to -1 or x is greater than equal to +1. Pretty simple. I'm just going to use the positive one here. Absolute x greater than equal to 1. And last one, x does not equal to plus or minus 5. When you have something like this, again, there's two answers, but I'm only going to do one answer. That's going to be absolute x does not equal to 5. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to learn how to graph on a number line. So we have absolute x is less than 8, and we want to graph this on a number line. Remember, if I have absolute x is less than 8, this is the same as x is less than 8 or x is greater than -8. This is what we learned. We did the backward steps in the previous question. But this is the same as this, and then I just have to graph this on a number line. I'm going to draw a number line here. I want to put my 2 points, 8, -8. X is less than 8, so 8 is here. Since the sign has no equal to sign there, it's just less than, I'm going to put an empty circle. And less than means I'm going towards the left. X is less than 8 looks like this. X is greater than -8, again, empty sign over here. Greater means this direction, and then we just connect these. That's how you draw this on a number line. Let's do absolute x is greater than equal to 16 next. So over here, this is the same as x is greater than equal to 16 or x is less than equal to -16. Remember, when we switch the sign, we flip the sign of this as well from the original. Do it on a number line now. So I want to have my 2 points of -16 and +16. X is greater than equal to 16 means I have a filled dot over here. The dot is filled because now there's an equal sign. Greater than means I'm going towards the right, and I'll go like that forever. X is less than equal to -16, filled dot over here, and going towards the left. So that's how you sketch these on a number line. Next question, we are given a number line and we need to write the absolute equation. So literally the exact opposite of the previous question. First question, we have a number line, -3, +3, and then fill dots, and it's connected in between. So again, I'm going to show you an easy way to do this. There's always two answers for this question, but I'm just going to hide this half always. I like to always do the positive half, which is the right half. And you just want to write an inequality for this. Just pretty simple. It's x is less than or equal to +3. And then to take care of this part here, you just put the absolute sign, and now it takes care of the whole thing. Let's do another example. I have -2 and +2. And I have empty dots over here, and we're going on the outsides for this one. So again, I like to hide left side here. The inequality for this is just x is greater than +2. There's no equal sign because the dot is not filled. And we're going towards the right. And then to cover this part here, I just have to put an absolute sign. So pretty simple over there. This covers most of the basic rules of absolute. The last thing we're going to cover in this chapter is just graphing some absolute functions, which is transformations, which should be pretty simple. Hopefully you remember transformations from grade 10 and 11. But I'm going to just do a couple of examples here to just show you the different kinds of transformations. And this will again be covered later in this chapter when we get into transformations. I believe in chapter 1.7 or chapter 1.8, and you'll see a lot of harder absolute functions, but let's start with some simple ones. The first one is y equals absolute x minus 2. So this is just an absolute function that's shifted right by 2 units. And remember, an absolute function is just a v function like this with this point here at 0, 0. So if I'm shifted right by 2 units, it just looks like this. The slope of these two lines are 1 and -1, and this point is positive 2. Pretty simple there. Next one is y equals absolute x plus 2. So since this plus 2 is outside the absolute, it means it's being shifted up or down. If it's positive, it means it's shifted up. So it just looks like that. Y equals absolute x plus 2. Over here, it's inside the bracket again, which means it's left or right. And if it's plus, it means it's left 2 units. So it's just over here. -2. You can always get slightly harder questions. So let's start with the first one here, which is absolute of x plus 3 minus 4. This is still a pretty simple question. Shifted left by 3 units and down by 4 units. So left by 3, down by 4, somewhere over here, -3, -4, and then we just go upwards. I don't know how accurate x and y intercepts are, but again, in a sketch, you don't need to worry about them. In reality, you could actually find the x and y intercepts if you needed to do a more accurate graph. Technically, the slope is 1, but again, that's not super important, the slope in this question. It's just a sketch. Next one is y equals absolute of 2x plus 1. So this is almost like a trick question. You've probably seen it in grade 11. When we have a k value and a d value, we have to factor out the k value. So before sketching it, we're going to go 2 and then x plus 1 over 2. So this one is actually shifted left by 1 unit or by half a unit, not 1. And that's a common mistake that a lot of people will make. It also has a horizontal compression by a factor of half. So it's going to be a bit thinner, the graph. -1 over 2, and you can draw it a bit steeper than usual. But again, it's a sketch. It doesn't have to be super accurate, and that should have been a straight line, but I accidentally didn't get it correct. And last problem for this video, y equals 3 minus 2x minus 5. So this one has multiple tricks in it. The first thing is the c value is written in the wrong part. So we're going to rearrange this to -2x minus 5 plus 3. So it represents transformation form a bit better. Then we have a k value and a d value. So we actually want to factor out this. So I'm left with x minus 5 over 2 plus 3. And now I can finally do my sketch. This is shifted right by 5 over 2 units. So right by 5 over 2, up by 3, so somewhere over here. But it also has a negative here, which means a reflection on the x-axis, which means it's going to open downwards. It's also going to be a bit steep because of that horizontal compression. It's going to look something like this. But that's basically the graph of the function. And that covers this unit over here. Like I said, pretty short and easy unit. You will see more transformations of absolutes later on in the chapter.